Guys, there are spoilers for this film and this review. So if you don't want to get infected, go out, watch the film, then come back. You have been warned. Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ron HD. So yeah, this is going to be a great time. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ron HD, and this week we watched 28 years later, the newest installment in the 28-something later franchise, directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland, the original duo from the first movie, and starring Alfie Williams as the main central character. And I'm just going to go right off the bat. I think that this movie was very entertaining, very good, very well made, very well good. I enjoyed it, is basically what I'm saying. I very much enjoyed it. Before I go on full tangent, why I like this film, I'll tell you why I like this film and more. Back to the house.
There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Boost, 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 moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. Seven, 6, 11, 5, 4, 17.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ron HD, and this week we watched 28 Years Later, the third installment in the 28 franchise, directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland, who Alex Garland wrote all 3 of the 28 movies, and Danny Boyle directed the first 28 movie, 28 Days Later, which I'd say is a classic at this point, and I reviewed it, so go check out that video before you check out this one. Just watch it. Just trust me, it's a good one. But this film is starring Alfie Williams, Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Ralph Fiennes. I believe that's how you say his name. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. But yes, this movie, well, just to get a few things out of the way, yes, this movie does have a bit of a cliffhanger ending, and, I mean, a year ago, like, literally, like, in April of last year, they were already having talks on a sequel. Apparently, this is the first installment in a planned trilogy, which, I mean, I'd be all for. I mean, getting more 28 movies, I think, would be pretty fun, you know, I like the 28 movies. And so obviously, this being a planned trilogy, the ending of this movie is a little, like, kinda, how do you describe it, like a cliffhanger, I guess is a good way to put it. It kind of leaves a few unanswered questions, while answering, like, maybe one question. So, obviously, Jimmy, who is not Jim from the first movie, it's Jimmy. Okay, he's different. He's actually very different from Jim in the first one. Although he seemingly started like a blonde tracksuit cult. Whatever tickles your fancy, I guess. And he seems to, I'm assuming he will be an antagonistic character in the rest of the trilogy. I don't know, we didn't really gauge a lot from him in the ending, but maybe I will touch on more about him if they make the second one, which I hope they do, honestly. I really like this film, and I would like to see a continuation. But with that being said, this movie, not the future, we're going to look at the present, this movie. Now, one thing I do like about this film is that it's not really a legacy movie, like, you know, a lot of the nostalgia, like, the nostalgia bait sequels to classic movies. You know, Jim was not in this movie, unless there's that one infected that kind of looked like Cillian Murphy, but it wasn't him. People thought it was from the trailer, but it wasn't. It's just a guy. So yeah, there was not even really a reference to either of the 28 movies, but I think that's fine, because really when you watch the first 28 movies, they didn't really connect all that much either, aside from obviously 28 weeks later taking place, you know, 28 weeks later. Like, it's obviously a lot later after the first movie, but that's pretty much all the correlation. Jim is not in that movie, and he's not in this one, which he doesn't need to be. This franchise is more of an anthology. You know, obviously, the first movie It's about Jim and the adventures, or like the voyage of his group, and then 28 Weeks Later is kind of about the attempted containment of the infection and the further spread of the infection. Obviously, this movie carries on 28 years later after the initial outbreak, kind of showing that it kind of leads on from 28 Weeks Later as to where they've, like, the other countries have completely given up on trying to rid the UK of the infection, and they're just quarantining it. So nobody can go in or out, basically, aside from, like, quarantine patrol. They're the only people that can, and they're not even really on the ground. They're mainly just in the surrounding area. But yeah, so the rest of the world are like, we tried, but it failed, so we're just gonna push it all into this area. And I do think that is a natural progression. I also really liked how this movie had a lot of dread to it. I really liked the aspect of how, like, pointless and kind of how a lot of the stuff that the characters did were kind of in vain, right? Especially with our main character, Spike, who's played by Alfie Williams. He is a 12-year-old boy who, against the wishes of his entire village, ventures out of their little safe island with his, mentally, like, unwell mother to go to a doctor that he heard about. Like, in the mainland, there is a doctor, and since his mother is sick, he's like, well, if there's a doctor, the doctor can help my mother. So he, rather idiotically, just kind of ventures out into the mainland on his own. And I get that he's 12 and he's, like, making impulsive decisions. But it was a dumb idea, and the whole movie proves that it was a dumb idea, right? It just keeps getting worse and worse, and eventually they befriend, quote-unquote, this soldier who helps them, who is a bit of a dick, but he's also a pretty entertaining asshole. So I think, like, if there's like an asshole or like a dickish character in a movie, I usually like them more when they're, like, entertaining. Like, they're fun to, like, laugh at because of how much of an asshole they are, if that makes sense. But he gets killed by these things called alphas, which are, I assume they're an evolved form of the infection, where instead of just making them mindless rage monsters, they're more methodical, more thinking. They're like juggernauts, basically. They can tank a fuck ton of damage, and they'll, instead of just blindly running at you, they'll, like, plan. They'll stalk you for, like, hours or days even, until they find the right moment to strike, and then they'll get you. And they show an alpha at the beginning of the movie, and it takes, like, fucking a giant flaming arrow to kill him. Like, they just kept shooting arrows at him, and he just kept going, right? Barely, I don't even think he really reacted to the arrows hitting him. So, they're a lot to take down. And obviously, with 28 years going by, it's natural for a virus or an infection to evolve over time, right? To adapt to its new environment. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I do like the idea of the alphas. Obviously, a lot of zombie media do the smart zombie, right? Where it's like a stronger, more tactical, or is that the right word? That's the right word, more tactical infected. And I do like how there was like the main, he wasn't really a villain, he was an antagonist, because again, he's just an infected. I mean, they're kind of like animals in a way. And his name is Samson, or at least the doctor, Ralph Fiennes, named him Samson. And they don't kill him in this movie, they, like, knock him out with morphine. So I assume he will return in the next one. If they make one, I hope they do. But essentially, as I was saying before, I kind of got off track. I just like talking about zombies media. I like zombies. But, so essentially, he goes out with his mother to go to the doctor, Ralph Fiennes, and he eventually, after almost dying multiple times, they eventually get to him, and he, like, resides inside this bone temple, he calls it. It's, like a forest, I suppose, that he repurposed into a area where he put, like, a bunch of the remains of the infected and non-infected as kind of a, I guess, like a memoriam for them, I guess, because he kind of adapted to the apocalypse and kind of has the philosophy of the coexistence between infected and non-infected. He believes that I believe he doesn't like downplay the infected. He doesn't, see them as lesser, I suppose, is a way to describe it. He doesn't see them as like just animals. He sees them as people still, because technically they are still people. They're just incredibly angry and pissed off all the time, and they want to rip your head off, right? So that's probably just the problem. Because they're not really zombies. They're not dead. They're still alive. Like, really, you could kill a rage infected any normal way you'd kill a person. It's just they have so much adrenaline and rage that they could just take more damage naturally because of how fucking angry they are, right? But it's not like destroy the brain. Like, you could shoot the heart and still kill them, And I like that. But also, once they get to the doctor, I do like how it basically repurposes the entire story. Not repurposes, but it basically contextualizes how meaningless all of it was. How meaningless all the shit that they went through was, and not abandoning, but like leaving the village was, because it comes out that his mother had cancer. That was the sickness that she had. And obviously, there's no cure for cancer, right? There's treatments with like chemotherapy and stuff, which can work. They don't always work, but they can work. But obviously, how the fuck are you gonna get chemotherapy in the middle of a fucking zombie apocalypse, right? Not very accessible. So the kid starts to just like have a breakdown, like realizing that all of it was for nothing, right? Like venturing out this far, doing all this was meaningless. It was pointless because she's going to die anyway. And he went there specifically to get her a treatment so that she would be better. But even then, I feel like he was being a little delusional there because, yeah, he's a doctor, but like he's not going to have like medication or any, equipment to like give her a proper diagnosis or anything. So it was just kind of a desperate, like, last hurrah to try to help his mom. Like a Hail Mary, I suppose you could say. But then, obviously, also, earlier in the movie, this is also I liked this, but it was also strange. I'm not going to describe everything in the movie. That's just what I'm doing. But overall, I just really liked the dread of it. At the beginning, you knew something was going to go wrong. Obviously, in a movie like this, something's going to go wrong. Like, it's not going to be all sunshines and rainbows, right? So you're just like on the edge of your seat, like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to go wrong? What's going to cause things to go to shit, right? And obviously, things went well at the beginning when the Spike and his dad, Aaron Taylor Johnson, went out into the mainland. Obviously, they had gotten chased by and almost killed by infected, but they were able to get back, right? And they had gotten nearly killed by an alpha, which I described earlier, but they dealt with him. Just barely dealt with him. Excuse me. But obviously the second time is when it goes to shit, right? Because he made a very impulsive, a pretty dumb decision, and that's when it all went to shit. Literally all went to shit. Like, he's on his own now, and but one thing I also really liked was the atmosphere of the movie. I really liked how it looked different to me. Like, the movie looked different, it felt different. It didn't feel like your average zombie flick. It had a very different style to it. I guess it was stylized in that sense. I really liked the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was very, like, rockin'. Like, there were, like, action scenes with, like, the infected chasing them, and I'm like, man, this is an intense scene, but this music this is rockin'. I love this fucking soundtrack. Because it's, like, it almost feels like, yeah, it's very, like, intense, like, heart-pounding music, but it also just makes you kind of want to go, like that sometimes, you know what I mean? It's just very good. I also, if you don't know, this movie was primarily shot with an iPhone 15 Pro, which is pretty insane. I mean, obviously there was a lot of post-production, color correction, stuff like that, but I thought the film looked great. And for being shot, it wasn't all shot on an iPhone. Like, obviously there were drone shots and action shots they shot on other cameras, but it was mostly shot on that. And I think that's very impressive, especially since, I remember, like, a couple years ago, they were advertising the iPhone, like, oh, you could shoot a short film with it or something, and I just thought that was, like, some bullshit marketing, but, apparently this movie proves that, yeah, you can do that, because I think the film looked great. And I remember seeing this behind-the-scenes picture of an infected, like, running through a forest, and he had, like, a giant rig attached to him that had, like, fucking, like, 20 iPhones on it, or like 10 iPhones on it or some shit, and it was just like all around him so it could get multiple shots of him like running through the forest. And I think that's great. I think it's great that you can experiment with other ways of shooting a film. And also, I think that may have cut down the price of shooting this film. They didn't need a bunch of bulky camera equipment. And this film only had like a $60 million budget. And I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you don't need to have fucking $200 million budgets for like movies like this. But I think, honestly, I really enjoyed the fact that this movie probably will get a sequel, because I mean it's just released like a couple days ago, and it's already made over 60 million in the box office already. Now obviously it has to break even, it has to do all this and that, but I think it can break even with it making 60 million in the first few days of its release. And obviously people are excited for a new 28 movie. I mean, we haven't gotten a new 28 movie in what, like 20 years? It's been a long fucking time, and people are excited for a new one. And especially since Alex Garland came back and Danny Boyle came back. And I think this film was very heavily supported by that fact, that the two original guys that worked on the first movie worked on this one. And I think that helped it. And I do think it felt like a 28 movie at the end of the day. It felt like it belonged there. It felt like I was watching a good old 28 movie. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but I enjoyed it. I'm just rambling here, but what I'm saying is I very much liked the movie, and I think you would too, and I would highly recommend it. And I'd even say that you probably don't even need to watch the first two, because as I said, it's an anthology. I mean, I would highly recommend at least the first one. The first one is an absolute classic, and if you love zombie movies, like post-apocalyptic movies, I think you'd get a fuck ton of enjoyment out of that, because it is a hell of a movie. It's a great movie. Highly, highly recommend it. But even then, even if you don't want to, if you just want to see this movie in the theater, like, blindly watch it, not blindly, because I told you everything about it, but, like, if you want to watch it, I think even if you have no knowledge, you can still go into this movie and enjoy it, just like a person who's, like, a big fan of the 28 movies. And I'm just saying that, highly recommend it. Just rambling, but highly recommend it. And, now, I've given the recommendations, but what would I rate this movie, you might ask? Well, personally, I believe I would rate this film a 7.5 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I have said what I need to say. I think I said my piece. So, guys, hope you like this video. Share, friends, subscribe, turn notifications on. Comment on that y'all liked it, but you guys know how it goes. I didn't really mean to say that. What I really meant to say was, if you guys hated this video, unsubscribe, dislike, in the comments. And I've been on Tim HD. Off to the mainland. I tried to, like, furiously throw it into the closet, because, like, you know, like, rage, like, the rage virus. I tried to, like, really angry, but, like, yeah, I didn't look that angry, did I? So, you know, there was, a doctor in this movie, and he was Ralph Fiennes, but I forgot that it was Ralph Fiennes. So the whole movie, like, I just, like his scenes were distracting, because I'm like, that guy looks familiar. Like, I've seen that guy in something, and then I looked at him like, oh yeah, I know who that is. Like, after I looked at the cast of the movie, but I'm like, it was just really distracting. Didn't take away from the movie, it was just, I was being dumb. But it's fun, though. He's a good actor.